The problem with first contact isn't the communication barrier. It's the cats. I'm Captain Aria Lockhart, Earth Interstellar Diplomatic Corps, and I'm about to explain how a 12-pound orange tabby became the most significant diplomatic event in human history. But let's start at the beginning, which, ironically, is nowhere near as interesting as the middle. Earth, in 2157, wasn't the technologically pristine utopia most people imagined. We were messy, complicated. We'd solved some global problems: climate change, energy production, basic resource distribution, but we were still fundamentally human. Chaotic, unpredictable. And we had cats. The Zentarian diplomatic mission had been years in preparation. Quantum communication arrays, linguistic matrices that could translate everything from mathematical equations to emotional nuance, protocols tested and retested, diplomatic scenarios war-gamed to the nth degree. Nobody war-gamed for Mr. Whiskers. Incoming transmission, Lieutenant Marco Rodriguez announced, his fingers dancing across holographic interfaces that hummed with quantum-entangled processing power. Zentarian vessel is stabilizing communication channels. The bridge of the USS Horizon felt electric. Months of preparation, years of careful diplomatic groundwork, and we were about to make first contact with a species that had been observing humanity from a distance for decades. The main view screen flickered, revealing the Zentarian delegation. They were simultaneously beautiful and terrifying exoskeletal beings that looked like a cross between sophisticated insects and living crystal structures. Their bodies shifted and refracted light, communicating as much through color and molecular vibration as through sound. Greetings, Earth representatives. The lead diplomat's translation matrix rendered in perfect, almost too perfect English. We are prepared to initiate first contact protocols. And then, Mr. Whiskers happened. He wasn't supposed to be there. He was my sister's emotional support animal, a rescue cat with more attitude than any creature had a right to possess. Somehow, he'd stowed away in an equipment case, surviving multiple security checks and a month-long interstellar journey. One moment, the bridge was a pinnacle of human technological achievement. The next, 12 pounds of orange tabby materialized between the communication console and the Zentarian diplomatic projection. Mr. Whiskers stretched, yawned, and looked directly at the alien diplomats with the kind of contemptuous disinterest usually reserved for particularly boring wall decorations. The Zentarian diplomatic team froze. Literally. Their exoskeletal structures locked into place, vibration patterns indicating what could only be described as pure, unadulterated terror. Is that a predator? The lead diplomat's translation matrix stuttered. I should have said something diplomatic, reassuring, professional. He's just a cat, I blurted. Technically, he's not even supposed to be here. Mr. Whiskers chose that moment to start cleaning himself, demonstrating a complete and utter lack of concern for interstellar diplomacy. The communication channel went silent. Then, a series of clicks and vibrations that the translation matrix struggled to process. When it finally rendered the sounds, I'm certain the quantum linguistics computer experienced something akin to an existential crisis. Small god, it translated. Potential apex predator. And just like that, humanity's first contact with an advanced alien civilization became a story about a cat named Mr. Whiskers. Some days you're the captain of an interstellar diplomatic mission. Other days you're trying to explain why a house cat just became an intergalactic incident. Welcome to my Thursday. The universe is complicated. Cats are more complicated. 3 years before our first contact disaster, the science vessel Prometheus was everything humanity hoped would represent our best and brightest. A state-of-the-art exploration craft designed to push the boundaries of human knowledge, crewed by some of the most brilliant minds in the solar system. Dr. Elena Rodriguez wasn't supposed to bring a cat. Technically, Mr. Whiskers was a therapy animal registered with all the proper documentation, microchipped, and carrying more medical clearances than most human passengers. But therapy animals weren't standard on deep space exploration missions, especially not cats. He helps me manage stress, Elena had told the mission review board. Xenobiological research is high-pressure work. They'd reluctantly agreed, never understanding that managing stress was the least of what Mr. Whiskers could do. The Kepler 452 billion exploration mission was supposed to be routine. Scan a potentially habitable exoplanet. collect atmospheric and geological data, return with scientific insights that could expand humanity's understanding of potential colony worlds. Nobody expected a complete systems failure that would redefine everything we knew about probability, quantum mechanics, and house cats. It happened 2.3 light-years from Earth, in the cold, silent darkness between star systems. First, a minor power fluctuation, then cascading system failures that should have been impossible in a ship designed with triple redundancy and quantum-stabilized backup systems. "We're losing primary and secondary power," Chief Engineer Mark Chen reported, his voice tight with professional calm masking genuine terror. "Quantum entanglement drives are offline. Emergency protocols are not responding." Darkness. Cold. The kind of silence that makes humans realize how small they are in the vast indifference of space. Mr. Whiskers was napping on a diagnostic console when everything went dark. What happened next defied every known law of physics, technology, and common sense. The cat stood up, stretched, and began walking across the ship's control systems. Each step seemed to trigger impossible recoveries. A quantum drive that had been completely offline suddenly hummed back to partial power. Navigation systems that had been dark flickered with impossible complexity. Diagnostic protocols that should have been permanently corrupted began restructuring themselves. It wasn't repair. It was resurrection. "I've reviewed the logs 1,000 times," Dr. Rodriguez would later tell investigators. It was like he understood the ship better than the ship understood itself. Not through any technological interface we could comprehend, but through some fundamental interaction with quantum probability itself. When the rescue team found the Prometheus, they discovered a fully functional ship that by all mathematical models should have been nothing more than frozen debris in the endless void. And there was Mr. Whiskers, sitting on the captain's chair, cleaning his paw, completely unimpressed with the miracle he'd just performed. The initial reports were buried, classified, too bizarre to be believed. But someone always talks, and in the vast communication networks of human space exploration, whispers become legends. The Zentarian diplomatic corps had been monitoring these whispers, those quantum-entangled communication networks that humanity believed were secure. They were about as secure as a screen door in a hurricane. And now they wanted answers about the small god that humans casually called a pet. Mr. Whiskers, for his part, continued cleaning himself, completely unaware, or perhaps completely aware, that he had just rewritten the fundamental understanding of technological interaction. Just another day for a cat. The Galactic Council chambers weren't designed for existential crises. They were meant to be pristine mathematical spaces of pure diplomatic efficiency, sterile environments where complex interstellar negotiations could transpire with clinical precision. Today, they looked like a quantum mechanics conference crossed with a cosmic comedy club. 15 different alien species sat arranged in a circular amphitheater, their collective evolutionary diversity on full display. The Krelnar delegates, sentient tentacular beings wrapped in holographic business attire, sat next to crystalline silicon-based lifeforms from the Andromeda cluster. Gaseous entities from methane-rich worlds floated in containment spheres, and at the center of it all, Mr. Whiskers. The cat looked like he was considering a nap. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood before the council, her presentation a meticulously compiled dossier of impossible events. Quantum physicists from 7 different star systems had examined the evidence. Technological experts had run simulations. Machine learning algorithms had been pushed to their absolute limits. And they all came to the same impossible conclusion: cats were not just animals. They were quantum probability manipulation units with fur. "Let me be clear," Rodriguez began, her voice steady despite the surreal nature of her presentation. "We're not talking about random chance. We're talking about systematic quantum field interactions that defy every known principle of physics." She projected holographic data streams, complex mathematical models, showing how cats seemingly interacted with technological systems in ways that should be mathematically impossible. The Zentarian lead diplomat, a being whose exoskeleton shifted with what could only be described as bureaucratic anxiety, leaned forward. "Explain the documented incidents." Rodriguez's presentation began to roll. Incident after incident of cats performing technological miracles. A Mars colony research station where a tabby cat walking across a failing life support system completely restored its functionality. A deep space mining vessel where a cat's random path through a malfunctioning quantum navigation array corrected an impossible navigation error. Multiple instances of cats apparently sensing technological failures moments before they occurred. These aren't isolated incidents, Rodriguez explained. These are consistent, measurable quantum interactions that we cannot explain through traditional scientific understanding. The Krellnar representative's tentacles rippled with mathematical excitement. Your planet breeds quantum probability manipulators and calls them pets. Mr. Whiskers, as if on cue, stretched. And in that moment of stretching, the holographic projections momentarily flickered not with visual static, but with what looked like complex quantum probability patterns. The entire council went silent. "He just did that," Rodriguez whispered. "He just recreated a quantum probability field without even trying." The implications were staggering. Earth had been sending these small gods across the galaxy, completely unaware that each cat was essentially a walking, purring quantum computer with an attitude problem. "We require the Zentarian diplomat," clicked, "full genetic and quantum analysis of these entities." Mr. Whiskers looked directly at the diplomat and began meticulously cleaning his rear. Some diplomatic incidents, I realized watching from the sidelines, couldn't be explained. They could only be witnessed. The universe, it seemed, had a sense of humor. And that humor spoke in purrs and quantum mathematics. Diplomatic history is rarely made by something that can fit into a shoebox and spends 18 hours a day sleeping. The final hearing of the Galactic Council would go down as the most bizarre moment in interstellar relations. 15 alien species, countless years of evolutionary development, technological achievements that spanned galaxies. And here they were, utterly captivated by a single orange tabby who looked like he was more interested in a potential nap than saving the universe. "The documentation is conclusive," Dr. Elena Rodriguez presented, her scientific precision cutting through the cosmic absurdity. Felis catus, the common house cat, demonstrates quantum interaction capabilities that exceed our most advanced artificial intelligence systems. Holographic displays showed decades of compiled data. Cats walking through malfunctioning reactor cores and restoring them to perfect functionality. Navigation systems corrected by random feline path trajectories. Impossible probability calculations performed by creatures whose primary occupation was generally considered to be looking cute and demanding food. The Zentarian lead diplomat, whose name translated roughly to bureaucratic confusion of quantum protocols, had transformed from terrified to something approaching grudging respect. "You have been domesticating quantum probability manipulation units," the diplomat stated, "and calling them pets." It wasn't a question. It was an accusation wrapped in scientific marvel. Mr. Whiskers, current representative of his entire species, chose that moment to yawn. The yawn itself seemed to create a subtle quantum disturbance that made the holographic displays flicker. The official classification, when it was finally rendered, was nothing short of magnificent in its bureaucratic absurdity. Classification: small gods, quantum probability manipulation units, threat level, adorable interaction protocol, provide treats. Do not disturb during naps. Lieutenant Marco Rodriguez leaned over to me and whispered, "How does it feel to be representing the species that accidentally weaponized cute?" I watched Mr. Whiskers, who was now curled up on an expensive alien diplomatic cushion that probably cost more than my annual salary, purring with complete disregard for his newfound cosmic importance. "I'm not sure we're representing them," I replied. "I think they're representing us." The implications were profound. Every cat on Earth was now officially recognized as a potential galactic asset. Military strategies were being rewritten. Space exploration protocols were being revised. And somewhere, millions of cats continued to do exactly what they wanted, when they wanted, with the same indifferent superiority they'd always possessed. Dr. Rodriguez's final report captured the essence perfectly. Cats do not follow rules. They rewrite them. The Galactic Council adjourned. Mr. Whiskers continued sleeping. The universe, it seemed, would never be the same. And it was all thanks to a cat who looked like he couldn't be bothered to save the universe but somehow did anyway. Just another day in space. Addendum: no cats were consulted during the making of this diplomatic incident. They were too busy napping.